My wife cheated on me with my cousin and had a child, and my entire family has kept this a secret while I struggle to succeed. Now they want me back, so there's a lot of background here. Please bear with me as I explain the whole situation to my family. I'm 44 years old, married for 10 years, and with my 41-year-old wife for 13 years. We also have an 8-year-old son, and we're very happy with our lives, but this isn't my first marriage. I was married at the age of 2, but unfortunately, this marriage ended in divorce after 3 years, for reasons I still don't understand. My ex-wife's name was Amy, and she was with me since high school. We were practically childhood sweethearts, and after graduating from university and getting decent jobs, we decided to get married. The first few years were fine, but then for some reason things started to get weird between us. I did my best to maintain our passion, but then I started to feel that she wasn't interested at all. I did my best to win her back, but a few weeks before our 3rd wedding anniversary, she decided to hand me the divorce papers and told me she was fed up. I wanted to save our marriage, and I just wanted to find a reason to explain why we were giving up after being together for so long. But she couldn't give me any reason other than saying that she no longer loved me. I was really depressed, but there was nothing I could do, so I decided to accept the reality because I had no choice. I didn't want to force her to stay with me, and I didn't want to drag out the divorce and make her even more unhappy. We didn't have much in common, so the divorce process was a relatively simple one, and I haven't seen her since. I heard from a few friends that after the divorce was over, she moved to another city and cut off contact with everyone. This is normal, but what's really strange is that even my family stopped contacting me. They were supposed to support me during the divorce when I was going through such a difficult time, but instead they started to distance themselves from me after the divorce was final. I tried very hard to keep in touch with them, but I realized that I was hitting a brick wall everywhere. Even after several attempts to visit them, my parents and sister refused to open the door to me, which made me feel very strange. After the divorce, I couldn't even do anything, and I eventually quit my job and stayed at home unemployed for a few months. But I was lucky, even during such a difficult time, my friends were still by my side, encouraging me to do better and move forward. After the divorce, my family no longer supported me, so my friends took care of me, and I finally decided to open my own restaurant. This has always been my dream, but I decided to save up first because when I got married, I also had to consider Amy. However, now that we were divorced, I decided to go it alone. I also decided to use the restaurant name my parents had suggested. With the help of friends, I contacted several investors and asked them to join in. A few years later, I opened my first restaurant. After the divorce, it took me nearly 4 years to get back on my feet. 2 years later, I met my wife. We started talking, and after 3 years of dating, I decided to give love another chance and proposed to her. 10 years later, we had a son. Not only has my personal life improved over the past few years, but I have also made great strides in my career. It all started with a restaurant, but then we slowly began to expand, thanks to the success of the first restaurant. Currently, I am the CEO of my own hotel group. We own a semi-popular restaurant chain and hotel, and we are currently planning further expansion in order to become more popular outside the state as well. It's been a tough battle, but I've worked very hard to get where I am. That's why when I was recently asked to do an interview, I took it as a sign that I'd really made it, so I agreed. But I really didn't know what a storm it would raise in my life because my family decided to come back to me. They contacted me after seeing the interview on the news. The channel that aired the program has average ratings, so I didn't expect my family to watch it, and even if they did, I didn't expect them to show up at my office. My workplace is not a secret, so it wasn't hard for them to find me, but it was still inappropriate for them to show up at my workplace and demand that I see them during working hours, which they did 3 days ago, unfortunately. I was surprised that they had shown up again after such a long time, and I was at work, but the receptionist told me that my family was waiting outside. At first I thought she meant my wife and son, which would be strange because my wife was at work and my son was at school, but then she clarified and told me that it was my parents and sister who were there to see me. At that point, I started to feel really confused about what was going on, so I told the receptionist that I would meet them later, but that I had to ask them to leave for now. But of course they didn't leave and started throwing a tantrum, so I had to intervene because I didn't want the security guards to throw them out of the building. Before I had a chance to talk to them and find out what was really going on, I went to the lobby to look for them. As soon as they saw me, they started acting like nothing had changed since the last time we met, which was 20 years ago. They practically immediately started to ingratiate themselves with me, telling me how amazing it was that I had made the news and how inspiring my story was. I felt really strange hearing them say that, because they were my family and they should have been part of the story. I kept telling them that I had to get back to work, trying to change the subject, but they started talking about how they had also met my family, how my wife and son were mentioned in my interview, and how important they had been throughout my journey, and the channel played a few family photos, which I guess they were referring to. They started telling me how they were dying to meet my wife and their grandchild as soon as possible because they had been gone from us for so long. They started saying that I hadn't spent enough time with them after my divorce, and that I should have tried a little harder. I realized that I might finally be able to figure out what really happened back then, so I decided to let them talk instead of telling them to leave, and even sat down with them in the lobby to figure out what happened all those years ago, so that I could finally put an end to this. As they talked, I discovered the real reason why Amy decided to divorce me and why my family had abandoned me later on. You may have guessed it by now, but yes, Amy had been cheating on me the whole time, and I had no idea because my parents had been helping or covering up for her. Don't judge them too quickly, because they had their own reasons, which at least in their eyes, were justified for helping their daughter-in-law cheat on their son. Apparently, Amy had been cheating with my cousin, the son of my dad's brother. When they finally told me this, everything seemed to become clear at once. Why they had helped her, why I had never been invited to any family events for the past 20 years, why I had been completely abandoned, and none of it was my fault. 20 years, why I had been completely abandoned, and none of it was my fault. My cousin, whom we called Carl, was a spoiled brat with power, and I always hated him. But unfortunately, because his mother died when he was only 6 months old, his father and family seemed to think that he should get a free pass for everything he did, so no one told him how to behave in his entire life. And he could always get away with everything, which didn't help. My uncle was my father's boss because he founded the family business, and my father later joined his company. And after we got married, because Carl decided he wanted to be with Amy and Amy wanted the same thing, my family had no choice but to help them because they couldn't risk my uncle getting angry. Of course, but putting my relationship with him at risk was easy to do, so that's what they did. They told me that after the divorce, my uncle made it clear that he didn't want anyone in the family to have any contact with me, including my parents and sister. Apparently, they tried to protest, but then Amy announced that she was pregnant with my child, and that if they wanted any contact with their grandchild, they would have to disown me. Incidentally, I was never told about the pregnancy when Amy filed for divorce, and she didn't show any signs of it either, so I didn't guess. She didn't live with me until long after the divorce was final, since she had moved out. So I didn't know that I had become a father before my son was born. Apparently, I have a daughter who is now almost 20 years old, but she has never even known me and thinks Carl is her real father. Anyway, over the years, my parents have told me the truth. At the time, I could hardly comprehend it all because it felt like I was hearing a story, and I had to pinch myself to realize that this was my reality. My family had basically cut me off and switched to a relationship with their grandchildren, thinking that would secure my job. But in my opinion, they cut me off because they were cowards, and that was it. They could have easily told me the truth and let me deal with it myself, but they chose to be afraid of my father's brother, as if he could really do them any harm. Apart from firing my father, which he could have easily retaliated against by filing a lawsuit, as for never told me about Amy's pregnancy and the fact that I had a daughter, I really can't think of any excuse. For 20 whole years, they kept this a secret until they noticed that I was living a good life, and suddenly, all of a sudden, they felt very sorry and wanted to compensate me. Unfortunately, I saw right through their ploy. After they had finished, I told them I needed them to leave because I couldn't forgive them for whatever it was they had just said to me. I tried to be polite to them. After all, we were sitting in the lobby of the place where I work, and I didn't want to lose my temper, but of course I couldn't expect them to behave the same way. When I asked them to leave, they immediately started complaining that I needed to consider their situation and the difficult position they were in. I told them that I knew they had only decided to approach me now because I had become successful and they wanted a piece of the action, but they vehemently denied it. My sister even said that I owed my success to them in the first place, apparently referring to the fact that I had used the name they had suggested many years ago when I was still dreaming of opening a restaurant. I thought it was really bold of her to say that after all these years of not providing any support and me relying solely on friends in need to help me out, just suggesting a name didn't give them the right to claim credit for my success. It was such a ridiculous idea that I ended up laughing out loud and telling her that if she and her parents didn't leave immediately, I'd have them evicted from the building. They immediately started arguing with me, telling me that they would not leave until there was a clarification between us. But honestly, I was not interested in that, so I did what I told them I would do and had the security guard throw them out of the building. Naturally, they were very angry when they were thrown out and kept trying to tell me that they had no choice. I don't think they really had no choice, but they made the wrong choice and now they have to bear the consequences. It wasn't hard for them to not see me or my family for the past 20 years, and I'm sure they won't see us in the future either, because it's been 3 days and they haven't stopped trying to contact me. They have been texting me on social media, emailing me at work, and even showing up at my office, but haven't had the nerve to come in yet. Their attitude has changed significantly, as all they do now is try to apologize to me. Their messages are full of apologies, and even when I saw them standing outside my workplace, they looked really depressed, waiting for me to stop, but I just drove past and ignored them. Honestly, I'm almost sympathetic towards them. I have already spoken to my wife about this, because no matter what I decide to do with my family, we still have to consider my daughter, of whose existence I was unaware until a few days ago. We have been going back and forth about this because both of us are debating whether we should track her down and try to contact her, on top of which we have to deal with the family issues, because I don't think they're going anywhere until they have had the chance to speak to me again. My wife thinks that in order to at least try to clarify things, maybe I should talk to them, invite them home, and let's all talk so that at least we can clear all this up, because it's not good for my emotional health. But I'm personally not interested in doing something like that. I just want to continue ignoring them until they disappear on their own, mainly because I'm not capable of dealing with them right now, especially after what I found out and what I'm dealing with at the moment. So it's hard for us to figure out what to do and how to handle this. And I would like to ask Ida why she doesn't want to give my parents and I a chance to talk. We haven't been in contact for 20 years. Update 1. So it's been a week and 3 days since I posted here. My wife and I have decided to continue ignoring my family. Thank God they haven't shown up at my workplace in the past few days. Maybe they got tired of it, or maybe they were scared off by the security guards. But whatever the reason, they haven't shown up. I'm so relieved that they're not showing up anymore. I find it's much easier not to think about them anymore. I think it was just their faces that made me feel guilty about what I had done. However, now I don't have to feel guilty about ignoring their messages anymore. They can keep apologizing, but nothing will change, because the truth is that they failed me as a family, and no amount of apologies will ever change that. They still continue to send me messages from various accounts and email addresses, and at this point I don't even bother blocking them anymore, because what's the point? They just create new accounts to try to apologize to me, and I will continue to ignore it all anyway. Let's see how long they can keep it up and how sorry they can be about everything. Let's see how long they can keep it up and how sorry they can be about everything. Let's see how long they can keep it up and how sorry they can be about everything. Let's see how long they can keep it up and how sorry they can be about everything. Let's see how long they can keep it up and how sorry they can be about everything. Let's see how long they can keep it up and how sorry they can be about everything. Let's see how long they can hold out and see how sorry they are about everything. Let's see how long they can hold out and see how sorry they are about everything. Let's see how long they can hold out and see how sorry they are about everything. Let's see how long they can hold out and see how sorry they are about everything. Let's see how long they can hold out and see how sorry they are about everything. Let's see how long they can hold out and see how sorry they are about everything. Let's see how long they can. My wife and I don't know what to do about our daughter. We do know her name because my parents told me her full name and the university she goes to when we were talking the other day, so we managed to find her. My assistant managed to find her social media accounts, but so far I haven't done anything. I don't even know if I should do anything. Should I tell her that I'm her biological father? She's not a minor, so I can't just show up at Amy's house and demand custody or something. Honestly, I'd rather not involve her in this at all, because after I found out about her, I lost all respect for that woman and my entire family. They're just a bunch of spineless cowards, and I don't want anything to do with them. But I can't say the same thing about my daughter. because no matter who raised her, she's still my flesh and blood. If anyone can advise on how to talk to her about this, or whether I should do it at all, please let me know. Also, thanks to everyone who replied to my original post and commented. Your help has been really useful. I hope you can help me again. Update now. Hey, after reading the comments on my update post 3 days ago, my wife and I decided to take a chance and not wait for the right time or opportunity to tell our daughter. We just ripped off the Band-Aid and got it over with. Since she lives in another state, we didn't think it was appropriate to fly there, so we decided to send her a message first to see how it went. So we contacted her on Instagram, and as best as we can, we're now waiting for her response. I believe this is really hard to accept, and it's complicated for me too. I don't even understand how my wife is being so supportive, knowing that I'm reaching out to my long-lost daughter from my previous marriage. I believe this is very complicated for all of us, but we're doing our best. I really hope my daughter reaches out to me, because I really want to build a relationship with her. My parents have also been going through a rough patch recently. They haven't been to my workplace for a long time, and yesterday they sent me a long email saying that they were really sorry, but they really want to repair our relationship and they just need a chance. They told me that they won't be, but they are willing to wait for me to contact them. To be honest, I'm a little relieved that they understand what I mean and know that I really don't want to talk to them right now. I currently have a lot on my plate, and the last thing I want is for them to cause more trouble right now. I just hope they keep their word and don't contact me again. If I feel ready, or if I want to speak to them, I'll speak to them myself. But it seems unlikely that will happen anytime soon now that I know the real reason they haven't spoken to me for 20 years. Their situation has become worse. I feel betrayed and hurt, and I don't think that will go away anytime soon. At least one good thing that has come out of this is that I have found my daughter, and now I really hope that she will give our relationship a chance. I haven't told my son about this yet, in case she doesn't want to talk to us. I don't want to give him false hope, but if all goes well, he might get a sister from her, and I might get the chance to get to know a daughter I never knew. I'm having a lot of emotions right now, and I'm really trying to put it together. Update 3. Hi. Almost 2 weeks ago, I contacted my daughter on social media and sent her a message telling her who I am and her relationship to me. For the past 2 weeks, I've been waiting for her to respond, and today I finally got a text from her. She didn't say much, just that after I sent the message, she and her mom talked about me and finally realized I'm her biological father. Apparently, this came as a shock to her, because for the past 20 years she's always thought Carl was her biological father, completely unaware that she wasn't his daughter. She also learned the real story behind how her mother and I ended up like this, and told me that she wants to meet me and my family. We are all flying over to see her this weekend, because she doesn't have any contact with her family now, and so doesn't have any money to come and see us. She didn't go into details, but when she asked Amy about the message she initially received, Amy tried to deny it, but then she was forced to tell her the truth. I have not heard back from Amy yet, and I really hope she doesn't contact me because I don't want to speak to her, but my family immediately reneged on their promise and tried to contact me as soon as possible because they found out I had contacted my daughter. Obviously, my uncle, I found out about this, and they're naturally angry because they spent 20 years making sure I would never find out so I wouldn't cause them any trouble, but now I finally know. Of course, my uncle thinks it's all my parents' fault. My father doesn't even work for him anymore. He has his own independent business, but for some reason he still fears his brother and has been begging me to tell my uncle or Carl, or they had nothing to do with this, and that I found out on my own. Even if I did, I don't think anyone else would believe me, because they're the only ones who would like to do something like this. As I am estranged from most of my family, they have refused to speak to me for the past 20 years. They are now so desperate just to lose their relationship with my uncle, but honestly I don't care. It is because of them that I have had no contact with my daughter for 20 years. So I think this is the least I can do for them. Update for hello everyone. Today my family and I finally met my daughter. At first it felt strange, then really moving, but overall it was really beautiful. She seems like a very kind and good person. It's strange because she was raised by 2 of the cruelest and most horrible people I know, but I guess they did a good job with her, or it's just her natural nature. But either way, she seems like a very smart and mature girl. We talked for a long time about Amy and her father's situation. She told me that they naturally disapproved of her meeting us, but she didn't care because when she found out the truth, she simply didn't care what her parents thought. She just doesn't care what her parents think. After she discovers the truth, she just doesn't care what her parents think. After she discovers the truth, she just doesn't care what her parents think. After she discovers the truth, she just doesn't care what her parents think. After she discovers the truth, she just doesn't care what her parents think. After she discovers the truth, she just doesn't care what her parents think. After she discovers the truth, she just doesn't care what her parents think. After she discovers the truth, she just doesn't care what her parents think. After she discovers the truth, she just doesn't care what her parents think. She just doesn't care about her parents' opinions. She was very happy to discover the truth, and she seems to get along well with my wife and half-brother. We had dinner together and found out that my parents, her grandparents, had kept in touch with her, and she had always found it strange that they were so affectionate towards her, as they were not her biological grandparents but her grandfather's brothers. But now it all made sense as to why they were so attached to her. However, after finding out everything, she sees them all in a different light. I see them in a different light too, so I completely understand how she feels, although I may not fully understand, because I'm much older than her, and she's only 20, so she may find it more difficult to deal with, because she's been cheated on her whole life by the people she thought were closest to her. But anyway, we're both going to try and hope for a better future, and I know we have to, because we'll definitely try our best. I'm very happy that the meeting went well, and my family seems very happy with it all, as am I. Whatever my family did, whatever Amy and Carl did, I'm very happy about it. The important thing is that, at least now, after all these years, we have the opportunity to set things right, and I'm going to make the most of it.